every CFO, business owner, credit manager, director of credit out there knows the pain of chasing late payments. But what if the solution isn't about collecting payments faster, but preventing them to begin with, right? So we're going to talk for a little bit here about credit risk prevention, mitigating risk, and some of the things that you can do internally to help you mitigate your risk and minimize the amount of accounts that have to go to a third party for collections or file suit on, or you end up in litigation over. So one of those things that I really like to talk about is setting yourself up for success. First and foremost, having that credit policy that lays out exactly who you're going to extend credit to, how you're going to extend credit, how you're going to manage that credit once you've extended it, and then what's going to happen if things don't go as planned, right? We buy car insurance for the day that, God forbid, we wreck our car, we're covered, right? Same thing with a credit policy. It kind of gives you that roadmap. It tells you exactly where you're going to go or what steps you're going to take next and how people are going to qualify for that credit. So you want to make sure that you have a credit application, right, that has terms and conditions that have been vetted by your attorney. Defined terms, spell out exactly what is going to happen in good times and in bad times. And definitely use an attorney. Don't just out there and wing it with LegalZoom or ChatGPT these days. Everybody's all AI happy, but there's a lot of things out there, a lot of different nuances that you need to make sure that you're legally protected. So just go out there and make sure you're working with a great attorney that really understands what you're trying to accomplish, understands what your business model is, and the different nuances within that industry. So there's different things that you can do when you're vetting these customers. You can obviously pull credit. There's a lot of different data providers out there. They all have their pluses and minuses. I always suggest to people that they need to have more than one particular data provider, because some data providers may be good at certain things where other data providers are better at other things. So for instance, maybe somebody's good with the transportation industry. Maybe somebody is good with small businesses. Maybe somebody is good with large businesses. And what one data provider has that the other doesn't have will be the thing that saves you. These data providers share a lot of information back and forth, but they don't share everything, so they don't have all the same data. When it comes to consumer credit, we have Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, right? Most everybody reports to all three, but in the commercial credit world, there's nobody out there forcing you to share your data with any one provider or even at all, right? So, there's a lot of companies out there that don't share their credit data, which, to me, I don't understand. I think it's a good thing to share your data, especially if you're getting data back in return. So, I know there's Credit Safe out there, there's Experian Business, everybody knows D&B, there's Moody's out there. Those are some of the ones that are bigger names in the business as far as data providers. I'm sure there's others out there that I haven't mentioned, but just having more than one is a good idea. Not only that, but the ease of use obviously comes into play there as well. Make sure that it's a report that you understand. Make sure you get the demo from the data provider. You really understand the metrics and the KPIs within those reports so that you can make the best use of that information. So trade references. Let's talk about trade references. Trade references were big earlier on in trade credit before these data providers really came out. I think trade references are great. I wouldn't make my decisions solely based off trade references. The reason for that is if I'm going to go and apply for credit and they ask me for trade references, I'm going to give them the people that I know like me, right? I'm not going to give them the ones that I'm not doing well with. They're going to get my sister, my brother, my cousin, my friends, because those are the data provider, those are the references that I know are going to say great things about me, right? So just keep that in mind. I do think that trade references still can be an important indicator of what's going on with these folks. But I also think that you should only put so much weight within those trade references. So that's my 2 cents on that. So when it comes to early warning signs or red flags, right? So Obviously, when payments start to slow and people are avoiding you, that's an obvious red sign or red flag, right? When promises are broken and they're not following through on their promises, that's another red flag. But if there are lawsuits within that company, they're having layoffs or credit downgrades. Those are big red flags for folks that we're extending credit to. We want to make sure that we are aware of those. And then changes in communication in general. If they stop answering calls or emails, that's a real problem. Also, public information and your salespeople, boots on the ground, you need to listen to what's going on in the community, right? What are the salespeople saying? Are they ordering less than they used to? Or have they started to order from a competitor that you know about? Sometimes these customers will go to one vendor, they'll run up a line of credit with them, and then they'll real quick switch to another vendor because they didn't pay off the old one, right? Or vice versa. Maybe they come to you and this is a customer maybe that you've been going after for a while, or you've known that they're out there, but you knew they were buying from one of your competitors. Well, why all of a sudden are they coming to you to get what they could have gotten from their competitor? You need to really be thinking about that. And what's driving that? What's making that decision, right? So, just being mindful of why people do those things and what might be the reasoning behind that is going to hopefully save you guys a lot of issues. Let's talk about disputes and resolution and requalification, all things that are very, very important. So when disputes come about, it's very, very important that you're proactive in trying to resolve these disputes right away, because if they sit and linger, then you lose memory of what happens, they lose memory of what happens, things get jumbled up, and we don't have a clear picture. Don't just wait and hope that the sales department's going to resolve it or think that it's going to get resolved on its own. I've found solace in dealing with the things that I'm avoiding. Those are usually the things that are holding you back and things that you need to take care of right away to move you forward, because those are stressors in our lives, right? So dealing with these disputes that we're putting off and not dealing with right away can be a stressor on you. It can be a stressor within your department, a stressor within your business. So deal with them right away when it comes to disputes, right? Handle them quickly. Take good notes. Make sure that you have a clear understanding of the situation all the way through the scenario. Have phone calls, right? A lot of people want to email back and forth. Well, there's a lot of things that happen within email. You're not going to get the tone and inflection. Things can be misconstrued. It can become heated and emotional very, very quickly. So I found that, just having a conversation with these people and trying to work things out in a diplomatic way, being understanding, realizing that, these are humans on the other end of the other end of the phone. They're dealing with their own stressors and difficult situations, but realize that most of these people that owe you money are good people in a bad situation. And when they have this undue pressure of owing you money, I guarantee you most of them feel really bad about it. And the reason why they hide from you is because they feel they don't have sufficient resolution to the problem to work through the issue with you. You can always try to appeal to their emotions, but sometimes that kind of turns them off and turns them away. So, you need to just work through those problems gingerly, be forgiving, be flexible but firm, and just make sure that you document everything until you can get that resolved. Get your salespeople involved if there's a dispute. One of the things that happens a lot of times with disputes is the customer will talk to the salesperson, right? And then they'll come back to you and say, oh, no, the salesperson said this. But then if you go and talk to the salesperson has a different point of view or a different story to tell. So one of the things that I've found is useful is getting everybody on the phone together at the same time, because then nobody can do the telephone deal or the he said, she said game. So if everybody's there, then, nobody can say something that was said by the other party and then not have anything to back it up, right? You got to protect yourself in that way. So the other thing that I think companies really struggle with, and I think not just a few companies, but a lot of companies really, really struggle with this, is re-qualifying or re-vetting customers that they've been doing business with, that have a track record and a history with them. So, when you're dealing with business owners and business credit, situations change dramatically in a very short amount of time. I mean, think about some of the big businesses that have failed recently. Maybe because they lost a big contract, right? Or they lost a customer that they are used to doing business with. And a lot of these businesses, it's the Pareto's law, where it's the 80-20 rule, right? Where 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your customers. Well, if you lose one of those customers, you lose a big chunk of your revenue, and that can happen overnight. So it's important that you're re-vetting these customers at a very minimum 24 months. Realistically, it should be done every 12 months. But at a minimum, every 24 months, you should be re-vetting these customers, making sure that they still are qualified for the amount of credit that you're giving them. But not only that, there's still an opportunity there to help your sales team, right? Because if you go in and you re-qualify these customers, you may realize that their credit's better than it was when they came to you. You have an opportunity to raise that credit limit for them, and you can go to your sales team and be like, hey, I just wanted to let you know, I want to give you some good news that you can actually give your customer, that they were approved. We re-qualified them, and we gave them a larger credit line. So, I mean, every salesperson would enjoy giving their customer that good news, and would really love to be the bearer of that good news. So I think that's something that, everybody should practice. I know that in the day-to-day world, that's easier said than done to re-qualify customers, right? But you need to set yourself some reminders. You need to figure out how you can manage that, so that you are mitigating risk as much as we possibly can, right? That's our job in the credit department. So just make sure that you have that high on your priority list. So if you are using a credit policy, if you are using a credit application with defined terms, and you're following that, you're making sure that everybody turns that in and everybody follows the procedures, and you're using credit reports from the different vendors and the different trade credit data providers, and you're watching for early warning signs, and then you're dealing with these disputes right away, and you're re-qualifying these customers, you're going to mitigate a lot of risk. Now, one other thing that I want to talk about that a lot of people really don't think about, and that's public internet access, right? And I'm not talking about, do we have Google or AT&T Fiber? I'm talking about, are you using the public information that's out there? Google the company that you're extending credit to, and put the word lawsuit behind it. See if anything pops up. Google the company and their address, and go to maps and see, does that make sense? Fraud prevention is a really big deal right now. And these fraudsters are getting sneaky, They have a lot of different tools and things, and every time we figure something out, it almost seems like they're one step ahead of us. But we need to do everything we can, take advantage of the public information that's out there, and the age of information, right? The tools and resources that are actually at our disposal and our fingertips. The data providers are great. You need to understand, though, that it's only as good as the people that report to it. So I urge you guys to share your data with data providers, because the more that you share, the more information is out there for you and for everybody else to take advantage of, and for you to use and help mitigate risk. Credit and collections is a fantastic industry. I've been doing it for over 20 years. I really love this industry. And I know that, you know, if you're watching this, you're passionate about it as well. If I can ever answer any of your questions or help you with anything in particular with regards to the order to cash process, or, you know, there's a bad debt that you're struggling with, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd be happy to answer your questions. My name's Sven Nelson, also known as the guy that gets you paid. Thanks again for watching this video. I hope it was insightful. I look forward to seeing you on the next one.